Here I will try to begin to answer the question, why are people today, Americans anyway, so tired, or at least claim to be? My first response would be we are sleeping less. Many articles suggest that people have been gradually sleeping less and less throughout history into the modern times. Forbes.com says, the nation hasn't always been this sleep deprived. Back in 1910, people used to sleep an average of 9 hours at night. CNN shows in this study the dwindling time slept by Americans. A dwindling time blamed on technology? Our computers and mobile devices have all the stresses of the world on their screens next to our pillows. The National Center for Biotechnological Information writes, the light bulb has been blamed for sleep loss. However, recent anthropologic studies of people in societies with little or no electricity have failed to indicate that these people sleep more than people in industrial societies. But is this steady decline in sleep accurate? This article by the BBC begs to differ. The National Center for Biotechnological Information also does not seem to find the trend of people sleeping less over the years in the U.S., at least during the 20th and 21st century, except beginning in 2013. But this Gallup poll does show a steady decrease in average sleep times in the United States. I've found more evidence supporting the shortening of time slept than it staying the same. There is at least a good amount of evidence supporting that sleep time has shortened in the 21st century, generally starting around 2013. Perhaps sleep time may actually just fluctuate throughout history and not just steadily shorten. What has changed for many is the end of biphasic sleep, which is night sleep that occurs in 2 shifts. This appears to have begun to fade around the 1600s. It is suggested that perhaps sleeping in 2 shifts may improve our quality of sleep. But why would people be sleeping less? This author suggests we work more. But for many, perhaps the opposite is true, and we are relaxing too much. Howard Bloom writes in his book The Lucifer Principle, to both body and brain, taking it easy is death. Vigorous activity, on the other hand, is life itself. And challenge is not our enemy, but our salvation. One way to diminish tiredness isn't relaxing and napping, but activities that give a lust for life. But I would posit the 2 main reasons why people are not sleeping as much are the lit technologies and dissatisfaction. But would sleeping more really make us feel better? When many people stay up at night, they are doing the things they want to do. If people are to sleep longer, they need more time to do satisfying things during the day. One way for this to happen could be perhaps to work less hours. Another, have teachers give less homework. And the other would be to force oneself to not be lazy. The second reason I will posit enters into even greater ambiguity and basically conspiracy theory, alternate theory. We have become increasingly tired with the increase of electric technologies. And that which tires us is the electricity itself. The body is being bombarded with electrical disturbances it is not used to or made to handle in its proximity to electrical devices. There are studies done on the effects of EMFs, electromagnetic fields and/or electric and magnetic fields, which emit from electronics. The National Institute of Environmental Health Science writes, during the 1990s, most EMF research focused on extremely low frequency exposures stemming from conventional power sources such as power lines, electrical substations, or home appliances. While some of these studies showed a possible link between EMF field strength and an increased risk of child leukemia, their findings indicated that such an association was weak. The few studies that have been conducted on adults show no evidence of a link between EMF exposure and adult cancers such as leukemia, brain cancer, and breast cancer. Now, in the age of cellular phones, wireless routers, and the Internet of Things, all of which use EMF, concerns persist about possible connections between EMF and adverse health effects. These exposures are actively being studied by the National Institute of Environmental Health Science and recommends continued education on practical ways of reducing exposures to EMFs. The World Health Organization in 2011 released a paper which states that EMFs are potentially carcinogenic to humans. You can find a lot more information about this subject on the internet, but I would consider it under the realm of conspiracy theory. But it shouldn't be totally ruled out. If it is being debated whether it is carcinogenic or not, it is most likely affecting the body in some way, and perhaps it is tiring it. If it is true, what could be a solution? Perhaps developing technology which blocks its electric waves from leaving the device. I wouldn't suggest getting rid of technology we already have, as that is impractical. Though it is certainly an option, I would suggest caution in adding more into our lives, because we just might be continuously mildly electrocuting ourselves. The third reason I posit is that people are tired because they are dissatisfied. This reason may be the biggest reason for tiredness. This is an age of anxiety and depression. Critics of this say we are not more anxious and depressed than previous times. We are just more aware of these things. But if we are more aware of these things, then that in itself helps to increase it. As I have researched this topic, I have felt more tired just thinking about being tired. People don't sleep well when they are stressed or sad, and being stressed and sad is exhausting in general. What can be done about this? What can you do about the things that have always upset us and the new things? What can you do about the shrinking of fulfilling jobs and roles? The shrinking of direct human relationships, the downward trend in sexual relations, and the increase in single people, the anxiety over a country that might collapse or be taken over, anxiety about climate change, depression and anxiety over boring tasks, poor diets, an increase in existential issues, which is essentially existentialism in itself, in my opinion. Using drugs which are there to alleviate depression, but in turn cause it, or never let you be truly happy. Anxiety over debt, anxiety over life's decisions, like spending thousands and a decade for a degree for a job that might not be there when you finish. And another growing anxiety which occurs due to the fact that reality has changed, and many of the words and concepts that we use don't fit the current reality. Yet we still use the old concepts for new things, and it doesn't work properly. And this causes great tension, a tension that isn't even generally identified. Offering ideas for solutions to these issues is too much for this one short video, but you must believe in yourself no matter what. But don't necessarily be superficial about that. Believe in yourself, and believe in not necessarily people, but at least one other person, even if you have never met that person or think they even exist. We need people and things in our lives to energize us. We are tiring each other. We are exhausting other people. The fourth reason is prescription drugs, which can cause lethargy. Prescription drugs have seen an increase in use over the years. WebMD.com writes, 55% of Americans take prescription drugs. The fifth reason is people spend too much time in bed and in their pajamas when not sleeping. So those things lose their direct relation to sleep. Associations do matter. And the sixth reason is found common in dialogue, is that our food is unhealthy and making us tired. The problem of this is healthy food is generally more costly, but then again, so is poor health. And that unhealthy food has a lot of flavor, at least the flavors of sugar, fat, and salt. But junk food is generally the most flavorful food in America. But this is because we don't season, cook, etc. our foods well. And junk food finally provides us with our long desire for flavor, which we could have if we cooked better. I do admit to the subjective side of taste that this statement doesn't apply to everyone. Some people can prepare flavorful food, and some people think that the food is already delicious, even if it is lacking an explosion of flavor. The seventh reason is people frequently use tiredness as an excuse to not do something, whether they are or not. And the use of this excuse then actually makes the person tired. I would end by saying perhaps we frequently accept tiredness as something that happens to us, and not something that we can control and challenge and turn into something else. Also, why should we always assume being tired is a bad thing? Humanity is a heroic being. This is a time of heroism. But as we live in a new age, heroism generally won't be taking the old forms and actions of the past. This is an age of new heroic striving.